This season of the Urban Conservative Podcast is brought to you by Newton for Senate, working to improve education, reduce taxes, and keep North Carolina #1 for business. Find out more at newtonforsenate.com.
This episode of the Urban Conservative has also been sponsored by Case Technology Consulting. Help your business get value out of its data and become more efficient and streamlined. Case Technology Consulting. Check out the link in the description. Episode of Top of the Morning is brought to you by Edward Jones financial advisor Kelly Harmon, providing you with well-researched guidance backed by Edward Jones' extensive team and technology that help you prepare for retirement, children's education, or other financial goals. Call 252-473-1006 or visit the link on the screen. This episode of Freedom Talk with Clarence Henderson has been sponsored by the following. Think Before You Vote. Think Before You Vote is a national voter education and advocacy group dedicated to creating the informed electorate that the founders of our country envisioned. Through educational programs, virtual conferences, and live events, they seek to increase voter turnout at all levels. Visit them online at tbyvote.org or follow them on all social media at tbyvote. This episode is also being brought to you by the Frederick Douglass Foundation of North Carolina. The Frederick Douglass Foundation of North Carolina is an education and public policy organization. It is a collective group of proactive individuals committed to developing innovative and new approaches to today's problems. You can visit them online at fdfnc.site. To sponsor an episode of Freedom Talk with Clarence Henderson, send us an email to tuconservative@gmail.com. If you would like to support the show, you can do so at Cash App at $tuconservative, or you can email us to get more information.
This is Clarence Henderson, the host of Freedom Talk. And this evening, I'm coming to you with a discussion of which I consider to be a very important matter. And that matter is, are we willing to fight to remain a free society? Are we a nation of laws? Are we a nation that lives by the rule of law? Or are we a nation that lives by the rule of man? Given the environment that we're living in now, these are some serious questions. Questions of which we each need to do an introspection, a reflection to determine where we are right now as a country. When we consider our founding document, the Declaration of Independence, which is where we declared ourselves to be free from the tyrannical rule of King George III. And now during this time, we're in danger of falling under this same kind of tyrannical rule by people who want to overthrow the very government that we live under, of people who want to become dictators and decide that they want to rule by force, by violence. This is not the American way. We have seen what happens to a country when they live under the act of tyranny rather than liberty, freedom, and justice for all. So we as a people have to decide at this time, which road are we going to take? There is no doubt when we look at this country that we are very void of leadership. Where is the courage? Where is the fortitude? Where is the integrity? Where is the understanding that we all have the responsibility of living in a free society? That we all have the responsibility of living according to that which has been ordained by God. That we all are equal. This is a self-evident truth that cannot be denied. But when we fall under the guise of individuals that have decided that they want to live under their utopian idea, that they are the ones to decide how we are to live in these United States of America. I have seen this kind of thing throughout my life, and right now, America again is at a great crossroads in which we must decide what value we place on our individual freedom. What are we willing to accept? Is our freedom valuable enough to defend it? Or are we willing to just allow others to decide how we're going to live? As for me, in my house, we are going to defend our freedom according to the Constitution of these United States of America. And I would urge you to look at what is going on in this country right now, where we have organizations such as Antifa, Black Lives Matter, that are bound and determined that they are going to destroy this great nation called America. And there are people that have been caught up in these two particular movements, not understanding what the consequences or the results of it will be. So I am here this evening to share with you that if we're going to continue to live in a country where we have the opportunity to live out our lives, where we can be left alone so long as we understand that our rights end where others began. And so we must continue to search ourselves, to recognize that although we are not a perfect country, we are a country that other people are dying to come to. We are a country where people keep espousing that they're going to leave this country because they're not satisfied with the way this country is going. But I've yet to see one of these individuals actually carry out this threat. And so we're at this crossroads where in this country we have the opportunity to live out our lives based upon the rule of law rather than the rule of man, where we do not have to adhere to the tyranny of others. For too long, our officials have been bound by a few people that are determined to rule this country the way that they want to rule it, because basically it has no effect on them. And so we must recognize who these people are, that they have set us on a course that can only lead to disaster. When we have burning in the streets, when we have killings, when we have places like Detroit and Chicago, where there seems to be no great value to life, where it is very dangerous to come out of your household, or even when you are in your household. And when we call upon the authorities to come and protect us, they ignore it. And we must recognize a fact. And that fact is that basically these cities are being governed by the Democratic Party, who has decided that they will allow these kinds of things to continue, and have decided that we, the people, do not recognize what is happening to us. So I would encourage you to begin to study the history of our nation, so that you may begin to understand what we as a country have gone through to become the free society that we are, where we're able to have on programs such as Freedom Talk, where we're able to have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to peaceably assemble, all these things that other countries are so desirous of and do not have the opportunity to live out this kind of life. So I would caution you not to continue to be silent, as if you are consenting to the terrible things that are happening on some of the streets in our neighborhood. But before I continue this discussion, I must now pause for a commercial break.
This episode of Freedom Talk with Clarence Henderson has been sponsored by the following. Think Before You Vote. Think Before You Vote is a national voter education and advocacy group dedicated to creating the informed electorate that the founders of our country envisioned. Through educational programs, virtual conferences, and live events, they seek to increase voter turnout at all levels. Visit them online at tbyvote.org or follow them on all social media at tbyvote. This episode is also being brought to you by the Frederick Douglass Foundation of North Carolina. The Frederick Douglass Foundation of North Carolina is an education and public policy organization. It is a collective group of proactive individuals committed to developing innovative and new approaches to today's problems. You can visit them online at fdfnc.site. To sponsor an episode of Freedom Talk with Clarence Henderson, send us an email to tuconservative@gmail.com. If you would like to support the show, you can do so at Cash App at $tuconservative, or you can email us to get more information.
Once again, this is Clarence Henderson, your host of Freedom Talk, continuing on our subject this evening of, are we willing to fight to remain a free society? In order for us to do that, we must know who or what we need to be defending ourselves against. The latest catastrophe of riots that have broken out in our country started out in Minneapolis, where we haven't had a Republican mayor since 1974. So the city of Minneapolis has been under the Democratic political system since 1974. And what we have today is that it's being laid at the blame of the Republican Party. So is the Democratic Party in Minneapolis a shadow government? Is the mayor of Minneapolis not actually the mayor? Just what is going on? And not only that, while the city is burning, they want to blame who else but President Donald Trump. And when we look across America, here is a common denominator of all these situations that are occurring in America right now when it comes to the rioting. Where is or who is responsible, or whose doorstep is this to be laid upon? And when we look at across this nation, here's what we see. In the great city of Atlanta, we have not had a Republican mayor since 1879. Baltimore, 1967. Boston, 1930. Chicago, 1931. Houston, 1933. Does it end there? Would you like for me to stop, or would you like for me to continue? I think I'll continue. Detroit, 1962. Philadelphia, 1952. San Francisco, 1964. And D.C., 1910. So you tell me where the responsibility lies. You tell me who is to blame for this situation? Who is to be held accountable? And just what can we do in reference to this? You know, there's a thing in America called right to vote. Any citizen of this country has the right to vote. And remember, voting counts. Elections have consequences. So we all can be proactive and get out to vote. But before we get out to vote, think before we vote. Not only think, but do your research and look at who is causing these problems. Because there's been a great transmission of misinformation. There are those who are dependent upon you not doing your own research, but depending on others to tell you how you should vote. And I sit here this evening on Freedom Talk, letting you know, how do I know this? I am one of those people that falls into that category of voting before thinking, letting someone else decide and determine what my future should be. Voting based upon who was said that I need to vote for. Excuse me. And so now is the time for us to determine how valuable our rights are. You know, rights come with responsibility. And we can blame no one but ourselves if we continue along this path. Excuse me again. If we are going to remain a free society, one where we have the rights to exercise our freedom based upon the laws of the land and not the laws of man. Where we are not under the tyrannical dictatorship of someone who governs based on the whim of how they feel on a given day. Based upon what King George III, King George did back during his day. When bloodshed has been shed over this country to fight for freedom. And so now we must stand up for freedom and continue to fight for it each and every day. Election time is coming up in November. The decision is yours. Are we going to be a country of we the people? Or are we going to become a country of they the government? Are we going to allow a few to decide the lives of many? We hold this country in the very palm of our hands. We must not allow it to slip away. I, for one, fight every day to defend my individual freedom. It is a just cause because I have been without freedom before in my life, living under the code of law known as Jim Crow, being judged by the color of my skin rather than the content of my character, being judged as somebody being less than, where someone else is deciding my fate. Well, here's what I know. There's no person on this earth that can tell Clarence Henderson who or what he is. It's only the Lord God Almighty who makes that decision. And He's already told me who I am. And so as I continue this fight, knowing what one must go through, because I've been hard pressed on every side. I've been struck down but not defeated. And I will continue to fight so long as I have the breath of life in me. And as I close out this evening, I ask you, will you take this journey with me? Or will America become or be known only by reading the history to know what freedom is or was? Where we've lost our freedom because we would not stand up and defend and have the courage to fight for the freedom of America. Until next time, once again, this is Clarence Henderson coming at you with Freedom Talk. And until the next time, I'll see you later. Bye.
Just because you're black doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com.